Hi there, it's Ron Gula from Gula Tech Adventures, and today we're talking about company life cycles that you should be aware of if you're a founder. Now, of course, I'm going to be speaking about this as president of Gula Tech Adventures, where we've invested in about 50 different cybersecurity companies. Many of them have been acquired, many of them have gone on to raise more money. But I'm going to start off by talking a little bit more of the Tenable network security story, where I got to be a co-founder and CEO and CTO there for a number of years. We had version 1 of our product. We were celebrating it with Jello shots here. We had our second year anniversary where we celebrated with a small cake. Here's a picture of Cindy Gula, my wife, who's getting ready to put a logo on our first multi-story office building. And of course, we did a press release that said we raised $50 million from Excel Partners. Shortly after that, we were announced a very, very large raise from a combination of Insight and Excel Partners as well. And then not too shortly after that, Tenable Network Security went public on the NASDAQ. Now, there's a couple of interesting things about that story, right? We did seed investors. We sold secondary stock along the way, and we went public. This is not the normal path for most companies. Most companies actually do A rounds and B rounds and whatnot, and they invest into the company. When you sell secondary stock, you let your employees sell their stock, and we created a lot of millionaires and people who paid off their homes and cars and stuff like that. I've covered concepts of this in this video here about VC 101 types of fundraising, but the point is that when you have a company that's attractive to public markets, you can really do some amazing things. And a lot of times when you're a founder, you might say, hey, this is a starting line. I'm going to get to an IPO as my finish line. But when you get up to that IPO, you're playing a whole nother ball game, and you have to kind of start all over. And it's a very interesting time. Now, public offerings is not the normal way that most companies go. Most companies don't get past $10 million in revenue, let alone $100 million in revenue, let it go public. If you're starting in the tech industry, though, chances are if you're going to meet success and you measure that financially, it's probably going to be through some sort of mergers and acquisition where another company who's larger comes in to buy your company. Now, if you think about the likelihood of this over time, I think that there's a large percentage of companies that can get bought in their early days for their technology and their founders, or they can grow a company and grow what I kind of call real business, real customers, market share, things that you can measure in a mature market. The question is, which one of these is more likely and more beneficial to your vision? Well, this all goes back to what do you want? If you just want to make money, that's probably not the reason you should be a CEO, but you should be very aware that you might actually be in a situation where as an early entrepreneur, early founder, you might be offered a small amount of money to buy your company, but you might own more equity in it. And you might also say, I'm going to get some of those big headlines where we sell the company for $1 billion, but you might only own 1% of it at that point. So you might actually work 10 more years and have the same result, right? So you got to think about things like that. Now, another thing to think about is that you might be better off hiring somebody to help you position your company for an exit. And these are called investment bankers. This is kind of like having a real estate person help you sell yourself. They are going to talk about your company in ways that you might not feel comfortable talking about as an entrepreneur. They're not going to lie. They're not going to make up stuff, but they will position you in ways that you might not be aware of with that market. And, why would they do this? Well, because I found that when companies want to buy other companies, they usually do it out of some sort of motivation from the 7 deadly sins, like jealousy, right? Are they trying to expand too much? Are they being too greedy, right? Are they trying to be in anger? I've even seen some companies kind of buy other companies, which is interesting. The point is you will probably never know that as the founder of the company. Your banker will probably know that. So something to keep thinking about. Now, the company we did before Tenable Network Security was Network Security Wizards. We ran our own process. We got 3 or 4 offers on the company, and we sold to Interisys Networks. And even in that process, we didn't use a banker. We never raised venture capital for Network Security Wizards. But most of the time, people says, "Hey, that's a great job. Way to go." You probably could have made more money. You probably could have done that if you had worked with me, if you had raised money, and so on. Keep that in mind, right? When you're doing these things, your goals should be your goals. If you achieve them, great. People should also be telling you what the horizon is and what things you could be achieving. Now, There is another category of companies. We talked about IPOs, we talked about M&A, but what happens when things just don't go well? How are some things that we talk about that? Well, one of the things that the venture community will talk about is that's a zombie company, right? I actually think it's better to kind of say the company reached orbit, but it's not achieving escape velocity, right? And these are companies that get to market, they bring a technology out, they bring a solution out, and then they're just kind of stuck there, right? They maybe have the same customers, but they're not growing, they're not innovating, they're not pivoting, the company's not growing. Might be exactly what the company wants, but the reality is it's not something that's going to be having an exit or having somebody that's going to want to take that company public someday. So if you're in that, you're going to hear people say things like, well, they need to pivot, they need to expand, they need to get into a new vertical, they need to do things to basically, try to increase what they're doing. Now, another thing you might hear about companies that aren't going well is they get shut down. Here's the sad man leaving his business, turning the lights off on the way out. Shutdowns can happen for a lot of reasons, right? I've actually had encountered companies where there have been divorces in the leadership, there's been deaths in the leadership, but most of the time it's really just poor business. Markets can change, competitors can offer better products, and companies you could lose just a number of different go-to-market advantages out there. My favorite sort of company in this space, though, is the quote-unquote mom and pop shop, right? Where you basically have a company where you're very happy with the company, you're growing, you're with employees, you're making money, you're doing it, and you're happy. I've met tons of these companies where I wish I could have invested a little bit, caused them to grow a little bit, and they are very happy with where they're at. If you have one of these companies, God bless you, right? Run that company, take care of your employees, take care of your customers, and don't think that you're doing anything wrong. But you're probably going to be doing this. And if you're happy and your customers are happy, that's a good thing. Now, all right, so having said that, we talked about IPOs, we talked about basically getting acquired, and we talked about different kind of businesses that can flatline, both for good and for bad. But if you're thinking about going IPO, there's a long road ahead of you. You should always focus on your customers. Always focus on what problem you're solving, and never forget that you have to run a business to enable that. All right, if you enjoyed this kind of video and you want to see more, please subscribe to our channel. I've got videos on cybersecurity. We got also videos on the VC 101 where we share a lot of our experiences. And of course, you can subscribe to the channel or visit us over at Gula Tech. I'm Ron Gula. Thanks for watching.